Gotta find her. Got no choice.
Where, what a wuss. Parker hates it when I get the drop on him.
I hate it when he gets the drop on me.
Looks like the Spider-Wuss wants to play in more ways than one. But regardless, welcome back, true believers and all you spectacular Spidey fans, to another very interesting Marvel's Spider-Man 2 related video. But today I am joined by yet again another amazing guest and the #1 Marvel Spider-Man 2 fan in the entire world of Comic Blast, Keenan, which if you don't know, he does incredible Marvel Spider-Man 2 and other Marvel games content on his YouTube channel, which you should definitely subscribe to. And today, we are going to be diving into the potential future of what lies in store for Venom in the Insomniac Spider-Man universe. Keenan, thank you so much for joining me today. How you doing?
Great, and thank you as always for having me on the channel. It's been way too long since we've collaborated. I don't think we've really spoken much about Spider-Man 2 since our trip to Los Angeles, which was just a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I was so thankful to get to meet you there, but I'm really looking forward to diving deeper into this game.
Same here. So, what we saw at the very end of Marvel Spider-Man 2 has left a lot of confusion and a bit of skepticism towards what exactly lies in store for Venom potentially returning down the line, because as we saw at the end of the game is that the symbiote and all the other symbiotes within New York City have pretty much gone and disintegrated after Peter, Miles, and MJ destroyed the symbiote meteorite with the particle accelerator from the Emily May Foundation. And the main Venom symbiote that we saw throughout the entire game again disintegrated into ash and is pretty much destroyed as to what we are led to believe. But as we saw from Peter, where despite the fact that he did remove the symbiote during Marvel's Spider-Man 2, there were still remnants of the symbiote within Peter's bloodstream and thus revived itself after he interacted with Mr. Negative, and then turning Peter into anti-Venom pretty much, with the remnants of the symbiote still living on in Peter's body, but they are now free from the corruption of the voices that do come with the alien symbiote itself. And now, Peter still has a symbiote attached to him within the universe of Marvel Spider-Man 2, and potentially going forward even further down the line in Insomniac's franchise. But the same thing could be said for Harry, where the symbiote remnants could still be floating around in Harry's bloodstream, given the fact that even though he is in a coma, he is still kept alive, more than likely due to the healing abilities that the symbiote entails, which are still left around in Harry's body and bloodstream. So, this does bring up the question, especially considering the fact that Tony Todd himself, the main voice actor who plays Venom, did say that only 10% of his dialogue was used as Venom in Marvel Spider-Man 2, is that how could we potentially see the overall return of Venom coming back? And the most important question is whether or not we could see Harry return as Venom, especially given how much time and money they spent to develop Harry's character within this universe as Venom, or give certain fans what they want and simply have Eddie be introduced in this universe to then have him somehow become Venom down the line. So Keenan, what do you think about the potential return of Venom in Insomniac's Spider-Man universe, and who would you like it to be?
Well, if there's one thing that most fans of Marvel's Spider-Man 2 can say, regardless of how great the game was, and I know you and I both think it's 10 out of 10 for the game, one thing that most people had a complaint about, and I think it's a valid criticism about the game, is that we just didn't get enough of Tony Todd as Venom. We just got that small bit of the third act with him. And I think it served the story very well, but it definitely left more to be desired. So I personally would love to see the continuation of Venom within this universe. If it is to continue, I do want it to continue to be Harry, but again, without that evil alien in the back of his mind kind of controlling him. I want to see an anti-version of Venom within this universe, teaming up with our Spider-Man down the line. I definitely think that they set it up in this way. I'm not sure how we're going to get there. Is Peter also going to continue to always have the symbiote, or is that something that could be extracted to potentially help Harry out, revive him from this coma? I'm not really sure, but one thing I do know for a fact is that I definitely want to see Harry continue to be Venom, and I want to see that arc completely fleshed out. That could also lead us to more Venom within Spider-Man 3.
It definitely makes more sense in my opinion, and I think that you agree as well, Keenan, especially given how much time we spent with Harry and developing that relationship with him and Peter, to then further develop Harry becoming a more classical version of Venom from the comics, where he is seen as a lethal protector or anti-hero, and develop Venom's personality a bit further with the host that they've already established with Harry, instead of doing a complete 180 and out of nowhere introducing Eddie Brock. Now granted, we do know that Eddie Brock does exist within the Insomniac Spider-Man universe, like we have seen in the Easter egg with one of the collectible backpacks in the first game, showing that him and Peter did in fact get along when Peter was working at the Daily Bugle. But it has been several years since Peter has left the Bugle, and besides that minor Easter egg, we haven't really seen or heard any other mention of Eddie Brock at all within Insomniac's Spider-Man universe. So, if Harry were to somehow be revived with the remnants of the symbiote that are still hopefully floating around in his bloodstream, to then become Venom again later down the line in the future of Insomniac's Spider-Man universe, I definitely think it would be great to see a potential Spider-Man and Venom team-up to then take on, of course, what we would hope to be the next big bad that they face is Cletus Cassidy, who will more than likely turn into Carnage based on the Flame side missions that we played through. Now, granted, Cletus Cassidy does have a far more interesting dynamic with Eddie Brock, like what we have seen in the comics, and I guess recently if you've seen the live-action Venom film with Venom Let There Be Carnage, it is very obvious to tell that Cletus and Eddie do have a more interesting dynamic as rivals and pretty much as nemeses against each other, compared to Harry and him potentially connecting to Cletus if they end up fighting at some point. But that is the beauty of Insomniac's Spider-Man universe, because we do get new takes and interpretations on these characters that we haven't seen before. So even though the majority of people are used to seeing Eddie and Cletus go at it as Venom and Carnage, there could be a potential interaction that we could get between Harry potentially returning as Venom and Cletus becoming Carnage.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, specifically when you talk about Insomniac wanting to do something a little bit different and make their own version of this Spider-Man universe. One thing that I think could really be a big factor story-wise later on down the future is the dynamic between Harry and Norman, and seeing the continuation of that, because even though Norman clearly does have love for Harry, there is some sort of rift or awkwardness between that relationship. So seeing the dynamic between Harry as Venom later on down the line, and then Norman as Green Goblin, potentially in the Spider-Man 3 game, that could be a really interesting dynamic to see play out and how that would work together within a story. I think that would be very interesting. We now know that Harry is not dead, and I do think that there is a future for him within this universe. So how does that play out with his father becoming this ultra villain within this universe?
It would also double down on the notion that we have received from the creative director of Marvel's Spider-Man 1 and Marvel's Spider-Man 2 himself, of Brian Intihar, where he did say during one of the IGN or Kinda Funny spoiler casts, is that if Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is seen as the equivalent of Captain America Civil War, then Marvel's Spider-Man 3 is potentially going to be their endgame. And what bigger way could you deliver an amazing, incredibly themed Spider-Man 3 game plot than to have Peter return as Spider-Man, Miles return as Spider-Man, Cindy Moon developed as her own Spider-Woman as Silk, and potentially the return of Harry Osborn as Venom, but instead of being a villain going against Peter and Miles, he would then fall more into the traditional Venom role as an anti-hero or the lethal protector to team up with Peter, Miles, and Cindy to then go after Norman, as well as the return of Dr. Octopus in an epic finale with all of Spider-Man's most iconic foes going against each other in a battle of the ages. And I think that would be an absolutely insane premise to set up for the third and potentially final game.
I can't agree more with you there, and what an epic finale to a trilogy that would make. Getting to see all of these characters cross paths and see how we've built up from the ground these smaller characters such as Miles Morales and Cindy Moon, and seeing them all come together for this epic conclusion would just be phenomenal. I think that the endgame comparison to this third game is the perfect comparison. Another thing to really point out when we're discussing whether or not Eddie should be the one coming back as Venom or Harry coming back as Venom within this universe that we need to really consider is the fact that there really isn't much established for Eddie within this universe other than the minor Easter eggs here and there. We're kind of at the point where we're going to be wrapping up this storyline and this main trilogy for Peter Parker. And I feel like now isn't necessarily the time that you want to introduce a brand new character while also it being a familiar character in Venom, but Eddie is a brand new character, and that's not something that you want to try to introduce and build up to conclude this story. I feel like there would be a more emotional impact and weight if we just were able to bring back Harry as Venom and to tie up this trilogy all together that way.
It would also be a fantastic way to further develop Harry's character while also giving Venom the core traits that people have really wanted to see ever since he was initially revealed during the announcement trailer for Marvel Spider-Man 2 in 2021. So having Insomniac not only develop Harry's character, but also continuing to develop Venom as a character, as well as the symbiote potentially returning, would be a great way to further individualize this version of Venom from the other versions of the character that have come before. And with all that said, everybody, that is the video that Comic Blast Keenan and I both have for you today, and please let us know all your thoughts in the comments section down below. If we are to see the return of Venom in the future of Insomniac's Spider-Man franchise, would you want them to keep Harry as the main host of the Venom symbiote, or potentially introduce Eddie Brock within this game's universe? Let us know all your thoughts in the comment section down below, and please leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy, and definitely make sure to check out Comic Blast Keenan's channel because he will definitely make sure to keep you all up to date with the latest and greatest in Marvel Spider-Man news. Thank you so much for joining me, Keenan. I had a wonderful time.
Thank you so much, Evan, for having me. It was fun as always.
And until next time, true believers, thank you all so much for watching. Stay spectacular, Spidey fans, and peace out.